Hello friends, welcome back to another haunted Halloween video, where this week we're talking about morally gray characters. If you're new here, my name is Megan, and here on my channel we talk about all things books, writing, grammar, and more. And if you haven't already, please make sure to give this video a like, it helps out my channel a ton, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. So, what are morally gray characters? They're the characters that flip between good and evil, situating themselves right in that gray area where they toe the line between hero and villain. They aren't strictly good and they aren't strictly evil, and their motives aren't always clear, at least not at first, like they usually are with heroes and villains. But heroes and villains make good and bad choices just like we all make good and bad choices. So what makes morally gray characters different? Think of morality on a spectrum. On one side we have pure goodness, and on the other we have pure evil. Everyone is going to fall somewhere in this spectrum. Usually you're going to be either more of a bad person or more of a good person. And right in the middle of that spectrum is where we have the morally gray people. Morally gray characters will take that line and bounce back and forth between the good and the evil, which kind of just equals out to them being right in the middle. But as writers, we definitely need to be careful of how far these characters bounce back and forth on the spectrum, because there are definitely certain acts that a character can take that will just land them on the evil side with no hope of coming back. Some things are just too horrible to come back from. I love a good morally gray character because they always keep you on your toes, and it really keeps the tensions high in every scene that they're in. I have a morally gray character in my novel that all of my critique partners and beta readers have the same things to say about. This character was very frustrating for them to read. They never knew the kind of decision he was going to make in any given situation, and his motives are not yet clear to the reader, which made it that much more frustrating. But they loved this character. And I think that's what makes a really good morally gray character. Someone who you never know what they're going to do, but you love them, and you love to hate them, and you hate to love them. It's this balance. So how do you write a great morally gray character? You need to know their motives. Even if you're not conveying those motives to the reader, at least up front, you need to know what their motives are. They can't be doing evil things just for the sake of being evil. Their motives need to be both good and bad, which is why they're going back and forth between good and evil. You also need to make their pulls between good and evil drastic and consistent. If all they're ever doing is sitting over here in Evilville, bullying people, putting people down, making people's lives miserable, and then one time do a good act by saving a kitten, we're not going to be having them in the morally gray area. Just because you do one good act doesn't pull you out from the evil side of the spectrum. You need to be constantly going between them to equal out a gray area. One redeeming quality does not a morally gray character make. What they need is balance. So the balance between good and evil, constantly shifting, never knowing what's going to go on, is what makes them morally gray. What you need to do is give them both heroic and villainous traits. Writing a good morally gray character means that your reader is always guessing what this character is going to be doing. In any given situation, you really don't know what this character is going to do. You don't know what side they're on because they're not really on a side. They're on their own side, or you just don't know the side that they're on because they keep playing both sides. Even if your morally gray character decides to help your MC, it doesn't mean that this is the final decision they're making. Your readers are still going to be kept on their toes because they can backstab them at any moment. If your morally gray characters' motivations cause need for them to betray your MC, they're gonna do it in a heartbeat. Or will they? You need to make their backstory and or their motivations sympathetic to the reader. They may be making some questionable evil decisions, but if we find out some sort of backstory or the motivation that's driving them to do these things, it makes things a lot less black and white, which again puts us in the gray area. Growing an understanding between your reader and the choices that your character is making is huge in keeping them in that morally gray area. But make sure not to rely solely on backstory for the decisions your character is making. They need to be making morally gray decisions in the current storyline of your novel. So if they were evil the entire time and then you give them this sob backstory, it's not going to make them seem morally gray because they were not consistently making gray decisions, they were making bad decisions. And their motivations cannot be purely evil. Give them a believable reason for all of their actions, show apprehension in their choices, or show guilt afterward. If they're enjoying these evil decisions, that makes them an evil character. And finally, stick to just having a few morally gray characters. We do not need all of our characters to be morally gray. Again, yes, all characters make decisions good and bad, but it's not going to pull them into the morally gray area of the spectrum. While morally gray characters are definitely fun to have, and they keep your reader and your MC on their toes, having too many morally gray characters running around isn't fun. They never pick a side, you don't know their motivations, and so they're constantly just switching back and forth, and it's too much to keep track of, and the constant switching of sides and not knowing who characters are just makes things confusing. So keep just a few characters, and definitely have the good and the bad characters in there as well. So there you have it, my tips on writing great morally gray characters. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more bookish and writing related videos. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.